Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 480 being recorded on December 20th. I just looked that up. December 20th, 2017. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
No, I'm Allyn Malentano.
Sebastian never quite knows where he's going to be placed in the rotation, right? The key is Allyn always has to be last, regardless of anything else. Like, you don't want to come to the studio, someplace else, back to the studio, someplace else, back to the studio. No, I mean, whatever. Anybody could be sitting there, and I'd be saying the same thing.
The second studio guy is always the last person.
Yeah, it's true.
Little known fact: we don't rehearse.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. If you showed up
secret
for the show, for the live stream at PCPer.com/live, you would know that we never rehearse. And inevitably, until 1 minute after, I am at my desk, and until 3 minutes after, Allyn is at his desk.
I was here before you.
Yeah, that's
nah.
Yeah, even if it's true, it's not true. So PCPer.com/live, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. If you need a gentle reminder, you can go to PCPer.com/subscribe. You get this page here, asks for your name, your email address. There
Date of birth, social security number.
No, not working.
That is not the page.
That is not the page.
Why do we have this problem every week?
It's because you messed with you didn't strain early.
Consistency. For the love of God, can we get a laptop with an Ethernet jack on it?
Yeah, we need to replace that Ethernet PHY.
If you need a gentle reminder, you can go to this page here. It's at PCPer.com/subscribe. We ask for your name, your email address, and we do that thing that it sounds like we would do. We send you an email with a notification when we're about to do a live stream. See how that says live?
It does.
I thought it said live.
Yeah, it's the PC Perspective Relive edition. Built right in.
Well, we can use that now.
That's true. That's true. They've moved on. I don't know how long the copyright lasts on that. But PCPer.com/subscribe, go there. And then PCPer.com/podcast. I always mention it at the end, but never at the beginning. If you want to see show notes, how to download the episodes, RSS, all that other type of stuff. So do that. We also still have our Patreon campaign running. That's at patreon.com/PCPer. This is where you guys have the ability, if you choose, to make a regular recurring contribution to PCPer and the guys and the team and the podcast and the videos we make. We greatly appreciate it. Anybody who is a patron, that's super awesome. We're super proud of that. If you become a new patron and or increase your patronage during the live streaming, we will call out your name during the show, which
whatever name appears.
Whatever name happens to appear. I think I already had one show up here. Where did it go? All right, let's use the phone. Maybe it'll be more reliable. Terry Corker just pledged $5 as a new pledge. Thank you very much, Terry. See, you could be like Terry and be world famous now. There's literally hundreds of people, maybe thousands,
maybe
that will
dozens.
know your name, maybe dozens of people that will know your name from this. So, and if you become a patron, you're glad you know you're supporting wonderful content like this, the PCPer Mailbag. This is a show in which we read your questions in a mailbag-like form.
Hey, there's a Ken in the background.
Oh no!
So
I didn't know it was being recorded.
The sneak preview for one of the questions for this coming week's episode, if somebody says, do you have to record it at a different set? Because I get distracted by people walking around in the background. I'm like, this is part of the appeal, right? Now you know we're at a real live working environment.
We do stuff here.
Right? There's people
That could
doing
be a
stuff.
green screen.
It could be a green screen. That's true. And Ken you literally can't see Ken's screen. It's all washed out because he could be doing nothing.
It's true.
He's
probably
doing nothing if we're being really honest about it. So thank you for that, guys. That's on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/PCPer. All right, so let's get into the content for the week. We're going to start with celebration of Josh not being in attendance. What do you guys think about that? Is that great?
It's a Christmas miracle.
It's going to be a much shorter podcast.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Well, normally it'd be a shorter podcast. However, there is a storage piece for me to discuss. However, I will pick up his slack.
Also, he is driving 17 hours with his kids in the back seat.
Oh,
He's
dear
probably
Lord.
streaming this, right?
So he's probably, oh yeah, you know what? He could be listening.
He could be.
And
hey, Josh.
if I did the math right, he was leaving at like 7 p.m.
Hold on. Hey,
to drive
Josh, are we
17
there
hours.
Yet? Are we there yet, Josh? Are we there yet?
I think there's a lot of people, Jeremy, that prefer to drive through the night I used to be one of those people. I am no longer one of those people.
Oh, I'm still one of those people.
Well, but 17 hours, you're driving through the night regardless.
Well, that's true. If you're going straight, I assume they're going straight through. They're driving from Wyoming to Texas, right?
Sounds awful.
I think that's where he's going. Nobody should ever drive.
At least it's downhill.
Yeah, exactly. You just roll the whole way. Anyway, so let's actually get into the content. We're going to talk about the NVIDIA Titan V again. This time we have a story based around the compute performance, not just the gaming performance. Gaming performance was the previous story, that Ken put together for us. We did the unboxing, teardown, and look at the GPU already as well.
Now, this is what it's supposed to be used for.
Right.
Supposedly.
Yeah. And at $3,000, I think that makes sense, right? That's why this picture here shows the Titan V with the Radeon Frontier Edition, which when launched was $1,000, right?
Yeah, the air-cooled one was $1,000.
And now it's like
less.
It's less, let's just say. But the idea is the same. Even though the price point is very different between these two cards, even at peak, the idea is the same. So here's
kind of both got some golden in them.
What's that?
They both got some gold in them.
They do, yeah. The Titan V it's champagne. I think the color of the screen here is maybe making.
Was it made in France?
Yeah,
I don't think you can call it champagne.
Champagne. It's sparkling wine.
It's like Alpantara
here, yeah. So what's important to know here is, since we're looking at compute performance, this FP16 number or FP64, I'm sorry, is really where we're looking at today, right? So if you look at the Titan V, it has a 1/2 ratio for GPU cores. These are standard FP32 cores. What we think of when we look at gaming performance and whatnot. FP64 is for double precision compute. 2560. Compare that to the Titan XP, it has effectively 120.
Oof.
So you can see there's going to be a dramatic, or rather there should be a dramatic performance difference here. And even if you go like to the Vega Frontier Edition, it's got 256 FP64 cores. So again, you should see some significant performance deltas here. Obviously clock speeds and stuff still come into play, but that's where we're at there. So we talked about the card and the GPU and all that stuff before, so we'll just kind of jump into some of these results. Ken actually did the testing on this. Luxmark is an OpenCL renderer. They call it a path tracing renderer.
Yeah.
So it's essentially ray tracing, I think. If it's path tracing and ray tracing, I think it's paths, rays. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
Scientifically, I think they're identical. But so here's your quick look at performance. Scientifically, everything's the same.
Sure.
Luxmark 3.1. The Titan V is scoring, almost more than double of the Vega 64 liquid cooled. We did upgrade to the liquid cooled for our performance testing, just trying to give AMD the best possible footing.
Yeah, and there's some people asking why we didn't use Frontier Edition in this. It's because in these applications that we tested, besides SpecView Perf, which we did use Frontier Edition on, this is not stuff that's optimized by the professional driver, and we knew that the Vega 64 liquid clocks higher than the Frontier Edition liquid cooled. That's why we use that GPU.
Got it.
Yeah. A lot of questions about that.
Fair enough. And the Titan XP still does pretty well here in this one compared to the Vega 64, but clearly the Titan V, the dominant leader. Cinebench, OpenGL performance, no difference between the Titan XP and the Titan V. Not a surprise based on how we looked at gaming performance up front.
But little change between the Titan XP and Titan V there. It's way smaller of a margin than we saw in gaming.
Yeah.
It's like 1% or something.
V-Ray is a third-party rendering. Is it a plugin or is it an application?
It's a renderer that plugs into a bunch of CAD and 3D modeling applications.
Okay. And so here is a lower is better result. What you see here is actually interesting. So the difference between the Titan XP and the Titan V is still not dramatic.
It's like
25%.
Yeah.
But the increase over the Vega 64 is huge, like 3x. And I think the difference here is that V-Ray uses CUDA for NVIDIA parts and OpenCL for AMD hardware. And
OpenCL is a fairly modern addition to V-Ray, so it's probably a less optimized code path.
Yeah.
And this is also ray tracing.
Now, Slice Off Sandra is a test that we use for CPU reviews all the time, but it actually has a very robust GPU compute portfolio of tests as well. And some of this stuff really stands out here. So this is like shader compute capability, and this is where you start to see where the power of something like Titan V comes into play. If you look at single precision, the Titan V over Titan XP, it's there. But if you look at double precision, double float shaders, you're looking at the Titan XP scoring 0.745 gigapixels per second, while the Titan V does 11.
Yeah.
Right, so now you're getting into that 13x or so performance improvement, and even over the Vega 64 that does do more than twice the Titan XP. Can't even come close to standing up to what the Titan V can do. If you look at something like financial analysis, it's using double precision compute, and you start to see again an 8x performance difference over the Vega 64, 13x faster than the Titan XP. And scientific analysis as well, things people are probably familiar with, in-body simulation, fast Fourier.
FFT.
Fourier.
Just say FFT.
Yeah, I know. It's spelled out here on the graph. I'm trying to,
Fast Fourier transform.
Fast Fourier transformations.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you think it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's why none of the cards want to do it.
General matrix multiplies. Like these are where you're getting, if FFT is clearly not as sensitive to double precision, but in-body and general matrix multiplication clearly is. And then there was one instance still where in image processing, the Vega 64 was faster. And Ken, you think this is because...
I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. The SciSoft tests aren't exactly the best documented.
Yeah.
From what I could find out, this test uses FP16 shaders, which Vega has a lot of and has a lot of compute performance. However, Titan V also does, so I'm not entirely sure.
My understanding is that for FP16 math, it's supposed to use the tensor cores.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think all
Okay.
FP16 operations run on the tensor cores.
Okay. But I will say that for AMD's standpoint, it is one thing that they clearly made, a focus for Vega architecture is half precision, is double performance,
Double pack math.
Yeah, so it's like literally double the capability if it's written efficiently in that way. So start to see some of the benefits there. Now, we did look at SpecView Perf. What would you say here, Ken? Not a big change from Titan XP to Titan V, but maybe there's some headroom left to be gained.
Yeah, so if you actually take a look back at our Radeon Vega Frontier Edition results, you will see that the Titan XP scores are a lot lower. And that's because recently NVIDIA enabled the Quadro-specific sort of optimizations for applications like SolidWorks and Maya in the Titan XP driver.
Right.
So they saw a big performance advantage there. And I think something similar could happen with the Titan V in the future, because currently there's no Quadro solution that uses the V100 GPU. I imagine there will be at some point, and they just probably don't have those Volta-specific optimizations written yet. They don't have app certifications. They don't have anything like that to even put in the potential GeForce driver. So I think you could see a little headroom here, but if you were running SolidWorks all day, I wouldn't buy a V100. There's no reason to.
Right. Yeah. Folding at home, an old test from the from.
Hey, remember when people used to use their spare GPU power for good instead of crypto mining?
Instead of evil, essentially.
Some of us
evil.
still do.
Essentially for
There's
evil.
folding frogs. Shout out to folding frogs.
That's true. So this benchmark that you ran is OpenCL based, double precision. Actually, you ran single precision and double precision, so you can actually see like the single precision
Titan
is
XP
essentially
does-
identical to Titan XP.
Yeah.
But still, a little bit better than Titan or from the Vega 64. But when you look at double precision, again, you see this dramatic performance delta up. I don't know if any folders would want to spend $3,000 to increase their folding rate necessarily.
Well, that might actually be a proportional per cost upgrade.
Let's see.
For
So
that amount?
almost 3x. I mean, that's more than 3x, right? So
See,
Yeah.
like that's
No, it's more than three
that's
times the
actually
price, too.
That's actually giving you more bang for your
True.
buck if you're doing that kind of math.
And although the world of mining is still a cluster, we did run some quick tests, basically showing that the kind of confirming what other people have seen with the Titan V. It's about 80% faster than both the Titan XP and the Vega 64 for Ethereum mining.
The rest of the stuff, like 20%, just kind of the normal gain
A
without
lot of
any
optimization
optimizations.
still happening there. And again, it would have to be significantly better to make up for the
$3,000
3x
price point. Actually,
delta.
it's very efficient per watt in mining. It's just not
Is it?
efficient per dollar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
So you might make up You're making it faster because your power.
Yeah, but it takes a long time to. The power is like
I think at that math, it was like 110 days last time we looked to pay off that card, even at its higher rate.
Really?
And probably not taking into account power now that I think about it, but such is life. So as we now kind of, I guess this is the second of our third part talking about Titan V performance. Where do you stand on this, Ken, in terms of NVIDIA making a good part for people to buy?
If you have a reason that you know you need to do FP64 math, you need to do double precision compute, buy this GPU. It's far and away the fastest thing that you'll be able to find. It's the last sort of consumer level double precision enabled GPU we saw was what, the Titan Black? Yeah. 3 generations ago. Yep. So if you need to do double precision compute, buy this card. Like $3,000 is probably a drop in the bucket if you need to do that type of work.
Sure.
Otherwise, there's not really much of an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Don't buy it for gaming. Don't buy it for SpecView perf type applications.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy it for a workstation.
I would still buy Titan XP for that.
Absolutely no reason to buy it for a workstation.
Yeah, get the Titan XP because that's going to be a third of the cost, and you still get the optimizations.
And the gaming drivers.
And the gaming drivers are there. Yep. But if you do anything scientific compute, financial analysis that you know is accelerated by double precision math,
you already know you need this card.
Yeah, it's an easy decision. Like, you're probably pissed because you bought the $8,000 version a couple of months ago, right? That's probably where you're at. But if you're at a company now, you have this option to populate your, employees' systems directly with this card, which is what they were doing, right? Like, the Volta architecture has been sold in server form factors and GPU cloud, that you can rent instances of for some time. This is basically like, how do we get one into everybody's computer now? We've mostly saturated those higher cost, higher import systems. So now let's saturate the next one. After this, in theory, you would see the super high-end gaming market. So you'd have like a Titan XV, I assume, of some kind, right? But it wouldn't have double precision perf in it. It's probably going to be a different GPU to begin with as well.
You would think if they take the extra capability from that, maybe they can actually get better percentage gain on the gaming side if they did something different. Yeah,
I mean, you could be able to get higher clocks because you don't have to worry about the FP64 units. This is using HBM2. The gaming version may still not use HBM2.
Yeah, like sure. You're probably not going to just cut the double precision units out of this GPU and call it a consumer GPU. You're going to have a different GPU. You're going to want to do different stuff. You're not going to want the tensor cores. You're going to reuse your die area, make it a smaller die so it's cheaper to produce. Like,
is there a market for basically the Titan V minus the tensor core complex area on the die?
Sure. I mean, anybody that's doing that double precision stuff but doesn't ever plan on touching machine learning, I don't know if you could be able to say that for the foreseeable future.
That would be a weird market segment, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah. But I also don't know how much of the die space is occupied by those tensor units. I don't know.
It's probably not a giant amount.
Based on some of our performance that is coming up in the next article where we look at machine learning testing, the performance of it is high enough that I feel like it's probably taking up more than I thought initially in terms of die space, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's Titan V review part 2. We will have a part 3 next week that looks at machine learning testing. It's taking us longer to get to that because Ken has been having to learn how to test machine learning, and we have to use Linux for some stuff.
Linuxing. You have to download packages of test images that take days to download.
That's true.
Yeah, 150 gigabyte data set that you can only download at 3 megabytes a second from their server.
Yeah.
Thanks, science.
It's quite the bottleneck.
I had to bust out GetRight.
Yeah.
10-year-old app to do multiple downloads at the same time for one file.
What was it called?
GetRight.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. All right. Let's talk real quick about the crucial MX500. It's a SATA SSD.
Yep. They still make those.
They're still making new ones. Not that they still make them, but they're still making new ones.
Still making new ones.
What is
10 cents a gig?
Is it 10 cents a gig?
It's trying.
Shit.
It's trying.
So what do we got here? What's different about this drive compared to
what's different is
previous?
This is 64-layer IMFT 3D NAND.
Got it.
So like,
is this the first crucial 64-layer, or is this the first 64-layer consumer SSD period?
No, the 545S had from Intel had the same flash in it.
Got it.
But the 545S, I believe, it doesn't do dynamic caching. Actually, I'm not even sure it does any
I don't
caching.
think it does.
Yeah, it's just straight TLC.
Yeah.
So this one is TLC, but with Micron's dynamic write acceleration is what their catchphrase is for it. But it's basically SLC area on the flash.
Right.
But they're able to, like, this type of flash is actually able to be, like, at the page level of flash. They can say, I want this page to be SLC. I want this page to be MLC. I want this page to be TLC. They could just do it.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool. But they've been doing that for a while, just not with this 64-layer, this newer flash.
Worth pointing out here, we do have this video embedded in our review, which it is not a review video, so it is actually very different content than what's in the review.
Yeah, it's
which
part of the discussion we had with the guys that came to bring us the drive. Basically.
John and John.
Yeah. Like, here's, they're like, hey, here's our new product. And like, we obviously hadn't had any chance to test it yet,
sure.
Since the guys had just literally walked in the door
showed up that morning.
Yeah. So we had a discussion about the features, and something I didn't highlight very much in the article, but what I thought was interesting is that they've this has what's called power loss immunity.
That's a pretty good feature name.
Which is discussed a lot in the video, which is why I didn't discuss it a lot in the article. But basically, they're able to, your concern with power loss is that you're in the middle trying to write something, you lose power, you potentially corrupt something because your write could not complete.
Sure.
So Micron's claims are that, look, we can write to this quickly enough and efficiently enough that we can set ourselves up so that, 99 point, by what they're saying, basically 100% of the time, they are always in a state where if power went away, you're still good.
And they're not doing that by having a battery on the PCB or something, or even super caps.
Yeah, there's no super caps. There's no extra. There's no, there are capacitors on the PCB because there are always capacitors on the PCB for our product.
Electric.
But there's not like just, large bulk storage of energy that had to be added to it, which increases the cost because the, price of those caps, when you have to put 20 of them on a thing, adding cost to the price of the product. So they're able to offer power loss protection without the need for added cost of the product, basically. The dies are 32 gigabytes each for each die. So this is the first model to come out is 1 terabyte. They're going to introduce the other like 2 terabytes, and then they're going to do 500 and 250 gig as well later. They seem to be like direct selling this a lot now. Like it came out, it's on their site, on the Crucial site.
Oh, sure.
That's I couldn't when the review went up, I couldn't find it anywhere else listed for pre-order or otherwise.
Yeah,
so
it happens.
Direct sales, that's another way to, keep the price low, right? You get rid of the markup.
Since it's a gig, here we come.
Oh, they're trying. Like I said, they're trying. There is a gigabyte of DRAM on this product. Some people on the YouTube comments thought it was DRAMless, which is usually what's required for a low-cost product, right? Performance, pretty good. It actually did. What
page should I look at? I'm looking at the performance feed focus here.
Well, the focus, go to the comparisons. Go to like the, well, actually, go back up. Like that chart out there. So usually on a caching SSD, you see a speed related with the caching speed, which is full, bus speed of the SSD usually, and then you
see some drop off,
and then it falls off. That orange line is perfectly straight, and so is the blue line. Basically, it's rippling, but it's like at the same maximum throughput that the drive will do. So 60 seconds worth of writes didn't even hiccup. Now that could mean that their TLC speed for this new flash is fast enough to where the drive can just write straight to the TLC anyway, and still be going full speed, right? At least in the 1 terabyte capacity. Typically for like Samsung SSDs in the past, if you were at 500 gig or higher, it didn't matter if you were writing to the cache or not, you could go full speed for SATA. So maybe the Intel/Micron flash has finally caught up to the speed of which the Samsung flash could do, right? I would go to, you could just go probably straight to like client QDEF weighted.
There we go.
So MX500 is on top, and I put a 850 Evo and an 850 Pro in the bottom 2 slots. And if you focus on the read throughputs, because your write throughput is going to be higher because NAND just is able to accept writes quicker than it can look up reads.
Sure.
You got 15,000 result for the MX500 compared to a 16.8 for the 850 Evo. So it's getting close, right? These other guys are catching up.
850 Evo is still generally considered the top SATA SSD.
For performance, yeah. Yeah, it's up there. But, you know, it's good to see competition closing in on it. And the more important part is, you know, if you're 90% of the way there to the performance of an 850 Evo, but your price is like, you know, 25, 30, 40% off the price of the 850 Evo.
Yeah.
Like, which one are you going to buy?
That's a huge
right?
difference. Yeah,
like, you know, so if you can at least get close. And in the case of...
I like these graphs here.
Yeah, I've added results, even more results.
You should highlight the current result.
Well, there's a separate chart that's smaller at the top there for the comparisons.
Yes. See, I gotcha. So what's the takeaway from this, right? So I mean,
there was one slight hiccup we saw, the trim speed testing we do. It didn't do that great. If you're a power user that does a lot of like file deletions or that sort of thing while other things are going on.
If you accidentally RM-F.
The RM-RF, like your whole...
often. But you have to do it often for it to matter.
Yeah, well, so with the drive full, if you were to try to repartition the drive under, like, redo, you know, say you wanted to blow away your install on Windows, right? You wanted to, like, reformat. And the drive was completely full, it takes, like, a minute and a half for it to supposedly quick format the 1 terabyte model. Right? So scale that proportionally, right? It ended up being roughly half a second per gigabyte worth of added delay of like active data, and then it was like roughly almost 0.1 seconds per terabyte or per gigabyte that you deleted. So if you deleted a 10 gigabyte file, this SSD would effectively hang and not do anything for a second.
Got it.
Not a lot of time, but depending on what you're doing, could be a factor, right? But if the only negative I can find about a product is the thing that, you know, we kind of had to develop this test to even show this kind of thing because it's so hard to actually see in reality, right? Most people wouldn't even notice that your system slowed down a little bit just after you deleted stuff specifically, right? But again, something to keep in mind.
So how much is it, and how much is it?
Well, first, the warranty's 5 years, not 3.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they're matching Evo on that.
Got it.
Right, they're matching Samsung there. And the 1 terabyte model is $260, so 26 cents per
Somebody
gigabyte.
texted me earlier and said that they bought them today for $249 already.
Already?
Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. So
does that make it 10 cents a gig?
It's not 10 cents a gig. I'm sorry, it's not 10 cents a gig. But and the other thing I pointed out that I kind of chuckled at is I was doing, you know, research and looking up links, pulling up old articles to add links to this one. MX300 to launch 18 months ago. That was the price.
Yeah, when you said that, I cried a little bit.
Yeah, it's like the same price. So this thing that's supposedly such a great deal now, but it's actually the price from 18 months ago before the price started going up.
I mean, all memory has been going up in price, so the fact that these SSDs have even been maintaining that minimum entry point, I guess, is a positive. It just sucks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the MX500 from Crucial.
Yep. For that price, it pretty much just sort of becomes our default. As long as they're available to buy, like that's basically default recommendation for a simple upgrade. You know.
Yeah.
Like when you're at among the lowest cost and the performance is almost matching the highest performer. Like it's a no-brainer for recommendations, right?
Sebastian's still on the line. Sebastian, are you there?
I'm here.
No, wait, Sebastian, I can't hear you. Sebastian, are you there?
Sebastian.
What do you mean you can't hear me?
Oh, okay, there.
Oh, you're holding for Sebastian?
Holding for Sebastian.
Yeah, kind of pasty guy.
Yeah,
Sebastian
the guy who
with an S.
hasn't been outside in weeks.
It's got earmuffs on.
Yes.
So you did a quick little write-up on this USB-C hub, easy for me to say, from AUKEY, which looks incredibly familiar to me as somebody who has used MateBooks in the past that ship with USB Type-C hubs that have
The exact
same
ports?
stuff. I think, yeah. Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the exact same thing. What are we looking at? What's this good for?
It's just for basically your ultra thin laptop that comes with 1 or 2 USB Type-C ports these days. For example, the ZenBook 3, I think I had on hand at the time, only had a single USB Type-C.
Yep.
And
That
very much
sucks.
like the current gen, like plain Jane MacBook does. So the idea obviously is provide an adapter that gives you some actual I/O, like full-size USB ports, novelties like an HDMI out and an Ethernet, like a LAN, but also allow you to charge the laptop with like a USB Type-C pass-through. So I was able to do that with the laptop. It does get kind of warm if you're using it for extended periods of time, I noticed, especially if you're charging the laptop a lot using
Right.
this adapter, but never like hot to the touch or anything. And it was reliable. It actually gave like pretty much like at least 95% of my Intel on board like USB 3.0 performance when I tested it with a Samsung, like a T3 external drive, a high performance drive.
How often,
was
did you
within,
use, how often did you use that VGA port?
Never.
Well, when you had to give all those presentations,
Do you even have anything in your house that you could plug that into?
I actually thought about that, and then I'm like, yeah, actually, my older LG TV has an RGB in,
Yeah.
but it's mounted to the wall. I don't want to get back there. But one note, and it was brought up in the comments, with adapters like this one specifically, it has more than one kind of video out, but you can only use one at a time.
Mm.
So don't buy this to try to give yourself VGA out if you
Multi-display.
need that for some reason. And HDMI, it's one or the other. But ultimately, at $65 for the current version they're selling, they revised it slightly since the review unit they sent out.
Got it.
It now has like memory card slots, SD and micro SD cards on the sides. But internally, it has the same performance, same connectivity.
can you scroll to the bottom of that review, Ryan? I saw a phrase I like.
Phrase?
I want to point out. Solution to this Apple-inspired I/O problem. That's some great writing right there.
It
Sebastian.
is. It's very true, though.
I thought that was the soundbite.
Yeah, that's the pull quote.
Isn't it funny how even Apple's mistakes get copied by everybody because
Like
whether
taking
you
out a
like
headphone
Apple or
jack.
not, and whether you think that Android obviously has bigger market share than iOS overall,
Oh, sure.
Apple is still the number one smartphone by market share, with Samsung in number 2. And then you look over in the laptop space, Apple has a huge presence in laptops, and in design and features, they are often very closely. Let me say they inspire a lot of the other designs that are out there. So if Apple drops all I/O and you can just put like an ultra slim product out there with 1 or 2 USB Type-C ports on the side, that's okay. And if
Right.
Apple wants to ship, a laptop with absolutely no dongles, I will say on the Windows side, at least laptops often come with at least a dongle.
Yeah, I think Lenovo's we've had recently come with like a Type-C to full-size display
Dell's
port.
the only one that I've come across.
Does Dell
does
do it?
At least with the
Dell's
XPS 13
definitely do.
2-in-1, which is fantastic. My roommate just bought he got a deal on a new 2016 MacBook Pro with 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports on it, and he unboxed it and he was setting it up. I was like, you fucked up. You didn't buy any dongles. Like, oh well, there's one at work, and I'm gonna buy this combination dock one. I reached into my bag and handed him a Type C to Type A dongle. I'm like, you're gonna need this.
Yeah,
This is for you now.
yeah. Ugh, all right. Let's see what else we got. This was kind of an interesting bit that I like. Several news items came by that I saw like as I was going to bed each night or as I was waking up, and then totally lost track of. Luckily, Jeremy got this one for us. Jeremy, what is this picture of BK telling us? What's he pointing to exactly?
The future.
Good.
That's a haphazard point.
Also, I gotta say,
The
it looks a
future is
little.
unsure.
It looks a little. He looks a little flustered, like his button-down shirt has too many buttons unbuttoned, and he's got like some T-shirt with a print on underneath it. I'm not exactly sure what environment he's in there. Based on that red chair, is that a Walt Mossberg interview stage?
Yeah.
Damn it!
Looks like it.
All right, I'm actually more disappointed that I knew that, but continue.
So They're saying that they're going to be taking more risks in the coming future, which I think a lot of people are excited about because the only thing they've been really changing are their sockets, and that's maybe not our favorite thing for them to change.
True.
But they've spent the last year and a bit acquiring quite an array of different companies, from like Altera and Mobileye straight through to Nirvana. And what he's saying is that Intel's getting very close to splitting what they're doing 50-50 between CPU design and, as he calls it, future products. The sort of things that we're not quite sure if it's going to pan out or not, but at least it's worth trying. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the perfect example of that is what they're going to be doing with their GPUs that we've heard rumors about. And from what he's talking about, he's trying to make it sound like this is as crazy as back when Grove switched Intel from doing DRAM production to CPU production, which was a huge gamble. And, they just barely made it by the skin of their teeth. And of course, as we all know, it's paid out very well for them since then. And so moving over into the Internet of Things, picking up AI, all the other fun buzzwords that we've got going, the GPU and Mobileye are probably a good indication that automated driving is something that they're looking at. So it's going to be interesting to see just how much risk this company takes, because once you get this big, you become very risk averse. But on the other hand, I'd love to see Intel starting to do interesting things again, as opposed to just iterative upgrades where you get a little bit more efficiency each generation.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would really argue that Intel has been aggressive in pretty much anything over the last handful of years. I do find it's impressive that they're coming up on their 50th anniversary next summer, which is kind of mind-boggling, really. But the quote from here says, "Data is becoming the most valuable asset for any company. Our growth strategy is centered on data, memory, FPGAs, IoT, artificial intelligence, autonomous driving. Anything that produces data, anything that requires a lot of computing. The vision is we are there." Now, I think the idea would be like, well, no shit, like that's what you should have been doing this whole time. You're Intel.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be the leader of compute, and clearly they've fallen behind, right? They're not competitive in the mobile space against Apple or Qualcomm. They're not competitive in the AI machine learning space against NVIDIA.
Despite the 3 companies they bought to try to do that.
Despite all the acquisitions they keep making, right? And now the personnel acquisition they did with Raja and this whole idea of making GPUs, right? So that they're clearly, and I think many people would argue that they're behind on process technology as well. If you look at what Samsung and Global Foundries and TSMC have done, moving beyond, and even though the numbers game is still just a game, like these incremental improvements in process tech clearly are, if they're not catching up, if they're not exceeding past what Intel's able to do, they're catching up relatively quickly.
Honestly, can we think of any acquisition or like venture into a new market they've made that has succeeded, except for maybe Altera, because Altera was a pretty good business to begin with.
The dominant player, I think, at that point. I mean, drones, probably. They're definitely the leader in drones now. I mean, it depends on what you consider new. Do you consider their SSD market?
No.
Like, is that a new thing?
No, that's not anymore.
It's been a decade.
Yeah,
I guess. Right.
I mean, they bought who did they buy for modem technology? Infineon. That hasn't really panned out. They're trying.
I mean, they're still trying, right? They're still trying to be like the 5G guys. They're working with Apple. They're going to be the alternative supplier to Qualcomm modems for that. Intel's in an interesting spot because the problem is when you're the leader for so long, you kind of can't help but become complacent, right? Because stockholders hate the idea of you taking risk when it's unnecessary. So now all of a sudden, these same stockholders are like, hey, you're not taking any risks. You're not investing in anything new. And so you kind of have this fighting battle. So I feel for
the guy in the other corner in red shorts actually did do something risky and impressive this year.
Yeah. And they kind of did it because they didn't have a choice. And now they're forcing it on Intel to not really have a choice in some of those areas as well, right? So even if it comes down to a lot of marketing decisions, right, and Intel no longer being able to have 99% market share in server markets and stuff like that, there's going to be some changes that occur that they can't stop. But I think for BK's legacy and for Intel's like the last 5 years, I think they need to return to being an engineering company. They went away from that for quite a while. Obviously, they have tons of awesome engineers in there, but they went away from developing new stuff and instead are figuring out how to repurpose stuff for different areas of interest.
I think it's that they worried too much about developing new stuff and didn't focus on, for pardon the pun, lack for a better term, their core business.
I see what you did there. Yeah, well, sure. I mean, they were busy
trying to get into mobile and trying to get into IoT.
Right, but is that? But were they engineering their way into there, or were they trying to market and buy their way into there? That's kind of
they were acquiring their way into it. They picked someone up that already did it.
Not for all of those. Like they made like the Curie module and everything, which they had no real reason to make besides, oh hey, we kind of want to battle ARM on really low power stuff, and it's just like,
and now they're bailing on it.
Yeah, they've already bailed on it.
I love this music in the background. I don't think people on the stream can hear it. We have a test running in the background. It's very ominous music. That must mean it's time for us to move on to the next topic.
Very unmutable, ominous music.
Actually, I do want to move on to the next topic because this is an interesting story. I didn't have anything posted about it, but this is a tweet I posted retweeting a Verge story that was based on a Reddit thread that was based on John Poole's.
Who's John Poole?
John Poole is the developer of Geekbench, one of the developers of Geekbench, Primate Labs. Is that good?
That's good.
All right, it's done.
Yeah.
So basically what the story here is, everybody's always complained about this idea that your iPhone gets slower as the years progress. Like every software update that comes out somehow slows down your iPhone 6
and seemingly
forcing
when the new
you to
model
buy an
comes
iPhone
out,
7.
Yeah,
right? And somehow when that comes out, that always is the case.
Yep.
Right? Well, it turns out that there's actually some truth to that, but it's an interesting story about why it would be the case. So Geekbench is one of the most popular kind of easy to use synthetic benchmark tools and applications. So they have this huge set of data and they know what operating system you were on. They know when you ran the test. They know what your scores were.
And they appear to have a bunch of hardware that's on older versions of iOS. Like on purpose.
Oh, sure. They keep them on that. Yes, correct. So actually, let me click over to John's story that he posted over on Geekbench because you can see some of this data, right? So like here is performance scores, right? And you can see like the big spike in the middle is what there. It's your median, whatever. That's where everything then falls within.
Yep.
On 10.2 and then 10.2.1, you see these odd humps, right? So now you're getting a very different but still concentrated distributions.
And is that just the score or the clock rate or just basically
this is score density.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And then 11.2 comes out. And like sure enough, more phones are getting slower as these software revisions come up. Right. And the same thing kind of happened with the iPhone 7, but not until 11.2. Now you see these additional humps out here. And what the conclusion has become, and actually what Apple has confirmed, is that if you remember back when the iPhone 6S, I think it was the 6S, was the first one that had this problem that was like a widespread deal where the phones would suddenly turn off. I had this happen to me.
Yeah.
I'd be using a device, it'd have like 35% battery, all of a sudden it would just turn off.
Yep.
And I would go, okay.
Instantly.
And I could power it back on,
yeah,
and it would work. It was very odd. So essentially what's happening is as batteries age, they lose some of their peak capacity. They lose some of that, but
there's more voltage droop. The more you load them, the more the internal resistance of the battery goes up.
And that changes over time.
Yes.
It degrades over time.
Yes.
And so what Apple was doing with these software updates was when it recognized that a battery was
showing
hitting a droop of a certain threshold, right? Then it would say, okay, you know what? You're not going to run at this frequency anymore. You're going to run at this lower frequency because we know that the CPU won't pull more voltage than that, and we won't have these automatic.
Yeah, they were just reducing.
Shutdowns.
They were just reducing the current draw by reducing the power usage, which therefore lower clock speed.
Well, they probably did it the other way around. They probably reduced the clock speed, which in that case changed all the power profile what the system was pulling, right?
But the end result is slower phone.
So yeah, but like. The end result is what everybody had been complaining about for literally years, is that my phone slows down as you update the operating system.
And the thing is that once it's supposedly in this mode, It doesn't seem to be like only kick in when the battery's like less than half full or anything like that. Your phone would just, if the battery was doing that and it detected it, your phone was just slow from that point forward. Basically, it would not be able
entered
to
a state in which no matter what charge level your battery was at, it was always in the state until apparently you had a battery replaced.
Yeah, if you replace your battery,
suddenly your performance
everything
got better.
is back to good again.
Right, and so the engineering reason actually makes sense when you think about it, because
it does.
They designed silicon and chips and processors, and they put these in place that wanted to hit this peak frequency, but it required X voltage to get there, X current to get there. Battery degrades; it can no longer reliably supply it, so you take it from 2.3 gigahertz to 1.8 gigahertz.
Yeah,
right.
Now I wish it would only do that like on the bottom end of the battery
when you're
charge.
at 40% battery.
When you're actually at risk of running the voltage
Sure.
dipping too low, and it just shuts the whole thing down. Because
Yeah.
that's what was happening. The battery was just dipping below the voltage where it could safely power the phone.
So it shut down.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? Because there's a couple ways to look at it. I think Ken pointed this out earlier. It's like if you're Apple, the message you should come out with is like, hey, yes, this is Apple did admit, what was their statement actually? They said
they're not undervolting the phone as it gets older. They're overclocking it when it's newer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they don't say that, but that's
No,
what Ken is essentially like. If you're going to spin this in a positive way, which you could do, it would be like, we're giving you better than sustained performance for that first year while your battery is at its best.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes down. But the problem is that's a BS answer, because all of your reviews, all of your performance metrics, all of your
They're all based on new product.
Yeah, it's all based on new product out of the box. So the expectation, and I think it's a very fair expectation for people to have about all products, is that your out-of-box experience should try to emulate the experience you have throughout the remainder of your phone's life.
But does any product actually do that?
Well,
I mean, nothing. So like you've had this idea of bit rot on Windows machines, right? But you don't see, like Intel's processors don't suddenly clock 300 megahertz slower one day.
Wait.
I mean,
on your platform.
If your laptop,
so we're strictly talking about smartphones here, which is a totally different animal.
Like,
So
oh sure,
this is exclusively.
but
it's a computing device.
Let's say
which,
your 15 watt Intel ultra thin ZenBook 3 starts to get some dust caught in the vents, and the thermal paste degrades because they put on too much. Then it would.
So you're talking about the actual general slowdown of a computer over time, not actual bit.
That's
rot
environmental,
errors, right?
It's environmental.
So is battery.
Yeah,
but it's environmental that Apple engineered and created and sold you as well. Like Asus didn't sell you the laptop with the dust in it,
but they sold it to you with the cooling solution in it.
What's that?
They sold it to you with the cooling solution in it.
Yeah. But I mean,
and they put that laptop through dust tests, and they know how it will perform.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a great parallel, and I think what Apple's doing is not ideal, but.
So the real parallel is just that those bigger devices have larger batteries,
like an iPad,
which is not going to droop nearly as significantly, even when the battery is old, because it's just a much bigger battery, more capacity, more parallelism of the charge stored in the battery, right? So it's just it droops less.
So there's what is the correction that Apple can make to do this? They have
users change batteries.
Yeah, someone should invent a phone with an easily changeable battery.
That Apple might do.
There's that.
There's two options, right? One is they no longer engineer.
There's a potential issue where
they lower the maximum out-of-box performance to be a rate that they feel like they can sustain over multiple years.
Well, what happens now when you're within your warranty period or your Apple Care period, and you run this Geekbench thing, and you see that your result is lower? Like, my performance is not what it was.
Then you should go to the Apple store and get your battery replaced.
Exactly.
Well, no, they'll just tell you to factory reset it and send you on your way.
That's I know.
Yes, they will.
Also annoying.
Yes, they will. It's. The other option they have is one thing I would love for them to do, but they won't ever do, is I want some indication when I go into the settings to know what state I'm in.
Yeah.
If my phone is in a degraded performance state because of the battery,
it should just tell me. So that I can replace the battery.
And then make me decide, do I want to spend the $80 to go to the Apple store and have my battery replaced or not? Right? Or do it yourself or whatever. Right. But
I mean, Max will tell you when the battery is degraded and
that should
be replaced.
Max
That's true.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but,
They'll
but what
notify
happens
you-
when those batteries are degraded? You get lower battery life.
Sure.
Same on
You
the
don't-
phone.
you don't
It's the
get-
same deal on the phone.
Right, but you don't also get degraded performance.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Probably
literally
not.
just went through this whole
Yeah, it
thing
doesn't.
where that's not
It just
the case.
discharges faster. It doesn't
Yeah.
intentionally not clock as high as it did
So
before.
it's just a different situation that Apple has created around this. And what I would like to know is, does this happen to other phones? Does the Galaxy Note 8, after a year, perform lower, right? But now you have an interesting thing because Google, like Samsung, doesn't update the software in the same iterations.
Actually, watch that
Apple does.
watch that suddenly become Samsung's ad campaign.
Oh, absolutely, it will. Yeah.
Like our phone doesn't slow down.
The marketing campaign writes itself. Performance day 1, performance day 300, performance day 600.
Yeah.
And you have this thing, and then
Yeah.
you show Apple, right? And you do that. Like it's easy to do, but I'm just curious if anybody else is doing this, and Apple is just the one that got caught first. I don't want to say got caught because it's not like, I don't know, it got caught first, whatever you want to say.
Well, they're the ones with the highest performing processors.
Yes,
they're
and that's
the
the other
ones-
question I have is, did they reach too far in their processor design? I mean, not
Is the
design, but
burst-
just
are
like
the bursts too high current draw.
like they're already so much faster than the other SoCs. Like
Yeah.
scale that back 10, 20%, still win, and then this problem wouldn't exist,
It's true.
right?
The
would
chat,
Much less so.
the chat has an interesting one. Does your
Unlikely.
Tesla go slower the more miles you put on it? Yes, it does.
Actually, yeah.
Does it go slower?
You get less. You
It
get
accelerates
less.
slower when the battery is more degraded.
Yes, the more
'Cause it
degraded
doesn't
your
have
Tesla
enough
battery is,
current to
the
pull
less
through.
maximum current draw.
So
you
your
can
0 to
get.
60 figure changes 5 years into a Tesla.
That's true.
Elon.
But I thought we just had that discussion today about
That's
over
capacity.
provisioning.
It is over provisioned, but
That's
only
that's-
so much.
That's you'll get.
You'll
the
run out of
capacity's
it.
fine. That does not mean that the internal resistance
Okay, yeah.
of
So
the battery.
the motor of the car is essentially being equivalent to the processor, and however much.
Well,
the difference being
yeah,
that
the motor's just getting a lower voltage from the battery when you load it down when the battery's older.
Sure.
Simple as that. Right.
Yeah.
It can only go so fast.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and that's not intentional. That's not designed in from like Tesla's pulling it back on purpose. That's just,
Yeah.
and, there,
Well,
and
so
there's
what the
actually a
battery packs
function.
are.
There's a function in the car that already
God,
pulls
if
it
only
back.
we had better battery tech.
There's a function in the car that already pulls it back when you're at your low battery charge.
Correct. If
Like-
I have low capacity,
Yeah, it pulls you. It actually
it
tells
actually
you.
there's on the meter. There's some dots of like
Yeah.
you can't accelerate.
Yeah, you
faster
can't
than
go.
this.
You
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
go past this.
Yeah.
This draw from the battery, right?
It's
So-
it's a super interesting thing, and it's one of those, like, literally my thought was like, why would Apple do this? Like they have the smartest people in the world that work there, right? They knew this was happening. They knew this was going to happen. You're winning these benchmarks that you even claim aren't important
Yeah.
by this huge margin. Just lower that a little bit.
Can I interject here?
You may.
Because very few smartphone vendors do not cheat benchmarks.
It's true.
And as far as anyone has ever been able to tell, back when like Brian Klug and people like that were stressing this,
Not
Apple's
working
never
at
cheated
Apple.
on benchmarks. Now
Right.
you can point out now and say, well, Apple's giving you this idyllic, like unrealistic expectation of frequency and voltage scaling over time because it's all based on 100% battery with 0 charge recharge cycles on it. That's a valid argument you can make, but at the same time, Apple's not putting their device into a 100% or 110% state every time it detects that a benchmark is running either. So I think that it's a little bit misleading to look at this and simply say, well, based on benchmark data. Well, benchmark data is always a little bit misleading anyway. And if you look at the actual scenario we're talking about here, which is degraded battery. So say your battery's at like 700 charge recharge cycles, and ideally it never would go over 500. Well, now you're at like 70%, maybe 65% of your total battery cells that are even available. And so the phone is now managing the reduction in overall battery capacity by managing the DVFS tables and saying, okay, now you can only reach state 8 instead of state 10 to manage battery life. And if you change the battery, then it is restored to 10 instead of a limit of 8. But obviously
feel like
they're not being transparent about that, but nobody is as far as what their nobody buys phones based on what their DVFS tables are over time based on milliamp hours and voltage available.
I do feel like they kind of used like a blunt method of fixing this. Like first, that even when the battery's fully charged, it's still doing it.
Right.
But the thing that actually Ryan and I were talking about earlier when we had this discussion was like the more ideal way to do it would be to have something integrated like monitoring the battery voltage. And as you see it start to dive below where the phone's going to cut off, that's when you pull back on, but you'd have to have something.
On the frequency, you mean?
Yeah,
Pull back on
that's
the
when you
clock.
pull back on the frequency and the current draw, like, catch it before it does it.
I mean,
so that regardless of what the state is or what the change was over time
that
or
logic
whatever,
already exists based on temperature, but when you have to deal with power, it needs to be much faster.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
It's all about ethics and battery journalism.
yeah. But if you did it that way, then you would have a situation where even when the battery was degraded, at least if you had enough charge, it would always be going.
And we'd never
speed.
be able to find it.
Well, you'd only
Because who the hell runs Geekbench with 20% battery?
You'd find it when you were at the. But that's the thing, right? Then your phone would be full speed more of the time, right?
Yeah,
compared to this fix.
right.
Don't lithium batteries, they don't have the discharge curve like a lead acid one. A lead acid is pretty linear. You draw more voltage, so the amperage falls off, it drops off. But with lithium, it just conks.
It's a relatively flat voltage curve, and then it just falls at the end, right?
Yeah.
But then
So that fall changes as the life of the battery.
no, that fall is just yes.
Yeah, that's when you cross your cell voltage.
The fall ends up happening sooner, right? But that's not the problem here. You're still at you're still even within the regular band of voltage. It's just that band drops down quicker. The whole band lowers as you increase the current draw. The voltage it can provide becomes lower at higher current outputs.
Mm-hmm. Right. And your
and that happens instantly.
Your battery and your power conditioning are matched, aren't they? So that it has that operation within that that small band right below that hockey stick. I'm not a battery engineer, so tell me if I'm wrong here. But
no, the phone's not designed to operate into the fall off.
Right
at the end. That's you're staying within the relatively flat part of the band.
And that's the shutoff problem.
Yeah.
You hit that hockey stick and then it's game over.
Well, it doesn't. That hockey stick implies that the battery is actually dead. But the other thing is that entire curve just drops.
Right.
Like the more resistance there is internally, and it doesn't matter that you were at 50% state of charge. The entire curve falls to a lower curve during the high current drop.
So your voltage at 50% is now what it used to be at 80 or 70% discharge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even beyond. No, actually beyond. Like in the case of like when Ryan's was cutting out at 30%, when his CPU and his phone tried to clock up to whatever to launch an app, and it would do it instantly. You'd like be hitting something.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's just
like
off,
it would be. It was almost inevitably when I would open up the camera app.
Yeah. So you're loading down like that extra current draw from the processor and the camera firing up and all the other stuff has to turn on all at the same time, right?
Yep.
That voltage instantly dropped to worse than 100% discharge. Yeah. Worse than 0% charge voltage of the phone, right?
All right, so get on scripting that 9-month-long benchmark for new phone reviews.
Yeah.
I know
the phone's been out for a while, but the review's not done yet, guys.
Leave them on a shelf. I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, no, you just get the new phone and you put a crappy old battery in it.
That's true, but it has to be. The thing is, it has to be a used battery. It has to be like a battery that's been used by a person.
And the default shipping OS doesn't have this in it. They've been pushing it after the fact.
Right. They've been pushing it like for the iPhone 7 as they had reports of these problems internally and externally come up. They go, okay, now it's time. Here's the level. It's boom, done. Because it's going to change based on the battery chemistry that they're using, whatever battery they implement at that time.
I mean, it's very easy to emulate this. You would just put a resistance in series with the battery. Like, you just you'd suddenly make it an older style battery with more internal
Well, we got
resistance.
a lot of Android phones for you to test, Allyn.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And a lot of very inexpensive iPhones. Anyway, let's move on. AT&T has some good news and some bad news for me. Jeremy, can I have the good news first?
I mean, if you really want.
I do.
Okay. They're testing broadband over power lines as the signal coming from the ISP. And they're claiming that they're on target to surpass a gigabit a second. And I'm thinking that doesn't sound at all like what your guys' reviews have been like. And I can't believe it's actually been, I think it was 5 or 7 years since the last time you did a power line adapter review.
I will say
But-
my opinions on power line adapters, having not touched them in several years, is that they've always worked quickly and reliably until they didn't.
Yep.
Until they die.
Yep.
Until they died. Because they don't
Until the
degrade.
until the next brownout.
As it turns out, like
They just die.
120 volts is a lot for this little thing to have to filter through. And it eventually I bet I went through 4 sets of power line networking stuff and they all eventually stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the bad news?
And that's also just hoping that...
There's the bad news.
Oh, that's nice, Windows.
Speaking of bad news,
Yeah.
What do they want?
And
I'll
Cross
pick
off
a
your
time. Let's see. Hold on. Let's pick a time here.
What? Which update?
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
An update we've been bowling off for weeks.
Let's see. Let's pick that time. Perfect. Oh, that time is in the past.
That's in the past.
Tomorrow. All right. 12. Let's go a little bit later then. There you go. Thanks, Windows. Really appreciate
it seems we have that dialogue every podcast.
It's because
We
I
never let it
never actually update it. Yeah.
It always waits for the.
It's because it's always off when I'm not podcasting. Literally, this is the only opportunity it has to ask me a question. So what's the bad news?
Well, I mean, if you had a direct TV kit set up with the Linksys WV Bro 25 wireless video bridge, which is pretty much one of the default that come with direct TV, someone could have changed that for you. A guy did some research and figured out that if he could get at the wireless video bridge, and because it's wireless, that doesn't necessarily mean he's right inside your home. It takes him about 30 seconds to get a root shell, and from there he can reach out to anything that's connected to said video bridge and do whatever the hell he wants. He figured this out 6 months ago, passed it on to AT&T and Linksys, and they didn't do shit. So he's released it to the public.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah, lovely, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Optimus Prime consumer water blocks. This isn't red and blue. What is
I
going
know.
on here?
Doesn't change into a truck.
I mean, does it kind of look like Optimus Prime?
No, not even close.
No.
Yeah, man.
It does benefit from heavier springs, though. So, I mean, there is sort of a truck thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a water block for LGA 1150X, 11.5X, 20X sockets. Is this a Kyle? Okay.
That's a
Mm.
Kyle.
Yeah, it's Cowan.
It's a Kyle thing.
It's
Tread lightly.
American-made, too.
Ooh, really?
It's their first one, and it's fully American-made. They're out of Chicago.
Right.
And, I mean... The installation process, he said, was brilliant. It was just super easy to do. The only thing to keep in mind is there is directionality in the flow. But in testing it, he got okay results until he sort of decided, maybe some heavier springs, it'll actually make a better connection. Because if you find his little paste spreading exhibit, you can see exactly what happened when he updated and when he put the new springs in.
Oh.
I think it's on the last one.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. With the basic springs, you're not getting very much spread at all, and there's parts of that heatsink that aren't even touching. Heavier springs, it's got it.
Did he have to?
And drop.
Where did he get the heavier springs from?
You had them lying around
It's
somewhere.
Kyle. He just had heavier
Or,
springs
yes,
lying
Josh.
around. Yeah.
He
I think
just
it's
had him
from one of
within
the other
reach.
kits.
He always has
Yeah.
heavier
Because
springs
he's been
within
going
reach.
tiny
through an
mattress.
insane amount of water cooling kits
Very tiny
for
mattress, I
Intel
like
and
that
for
too.
Threadripper.
Yeah.
And so this one, like for an initial offering, it matches some of the better ones he's seen. So that's a really nicely, like you can see with a heavy spring.
I mean, that's a 5C
Beats the
delta. That's pretty
XSPC.
significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this may be a really good company to keep an eye on.
Interesting stuff. Good work. Editor's Choice Enthusiast Gold Award from Kyle. We should just have him on when we do these things so he could just talk through it. You know, Doesn't that make a lot more sense? He's basically here doing the whole thing anyway. So
It's true.
He did mention he pilfered the springs from a Coolants kit.
Yep.
oh, okay.
And that they are changing the springs on the kit, they've said.
Oh, they did. Okay. All right. Fair
I
enough.
think that's exactly the right thing you would do with that advice in that review.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, maybe we should just source some heavier springs.
Let's just get some.
That sounds like a pretty good idea,
Fair
guys.
enough.
But we already ordered
Wait,
10,000 of the
we
other
can
ones.
drop the price and get better performance? Yeah, I guess we could do that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sapphire released the Nitro Plus Radeon RX Vega, both 64 and 56 editions. That's a giant ass video card. If you want to use this front panel connector for scale, I do like the Sapphire logo they integrated.
Yeah.
On that now, that looks pretty nice.
It's cool looking.
But they are also still without DVI connections. Good design in the back plate. It's facing the correct direction.
It's true. You can actually
As
see
well. You can see it in a window
Unlike
chassis.
NVIDIA products as of late.
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
The RX Vega 64's Air boost clock of 1546. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this card has a boost clock of 1611 megahertz, which is above the Vega 64's default of 1546, but below the Vega 64 Liquid of 1677. Which is a little bit surprising, although I imagine with not much work on the overclocking side, you'd probably be able to do that. I think this triple fan cooling configuration is going to be pretty substantial when it comes to that. It does have system fan control here as well. Yeah, that's not. We've seen Asus cards that have
Asus
had
has
that.
been doing that on the Strix for a
Yeah.
while.
Good idea.
It is, 'cause then-
control the fan, the front case fan blowing directly on the
Yeah.
card, right?
Yep. I mean, there's two of them in here, so in theory you could that and exhaust. Interesting. I don't know if it says it in here, but if you could control it through their Sapphire software, I assume that would be what you'd be able to do as well.
Cool.
Available
even if
now.
it follows the ramp that the card's following on its own anyway, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Like without the software.
Yeah.
Did
This
that
is-
have a label for tech on the tack pin?
Tech.
It does say tech. Yes.
The techometer.
It's the technology. pin.
The tachometer.
It's where all of the
tachometer.
technology
It's how
comes
you
from.
meter the tech.
Yes.
You don't get technology into this fan any other way. So, the rollout of custom Vega cards has been slow. I won't say steady. It's just been slow. Availability is still hard. Prices are still high. It is what it is, I guess. I don't know anything about this Ataribox, so somebody tell me what it is. I know this is a retro gaming machine, Indiegogo'd, I believe.
It might not be a thing.
It might not
anybody can
actually
ever-
exist. Oh, cool.
I mean, it looks nice in those renders.
You trying to tell me that's not a real photograph?
It looks nice on pre-order.
It's a
Pre-order.
Linux mini PC that's supposed to have some sort of TV interface and play original and actually it's like the first couple generations of Atari games, I guess, initially. But there's some sort of online service attached to it as well. And it's unknown whether it's actually issues with the hardware or the back end of their online service that are causing them to delay this indefinitely.
In case you
But
want a
since
more
they
expensive,
first announced this, it seemed just a little bit sketchy, and I find this hilarious. I was completely like, of course it's delayed. Like, what do they have? I wonder if they even have physical units yet.
My guess is no. But
Who bought the dregs of Atari a couple years ago?
I don't know. But then they put out a speaker recently.
probably.
Yeah,
that
they
like-
put out like a couple things, but it's like
There's Infogrames in the late '90s. Is what like the Atari
Yes.
conglomerate changed their name to. But I don't know what happened after that.
Oh boy. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm on the source of all news. I'm sorry. I'm on the World
InfoWars?
Encyclopedia here. So after filing Chapter 11 in 2013, the Atari, let's see, a very small company apparently. It's some sort of Frederick, and it's Chesnius,
Frederick.
who now
I
heads all
I
three
know
companies.
Fred. I know Fred.
Stated their entire operations consist of a staff of 10 people.
Oh, a licensing corporation there. Got it.
yeah.
So I don't think they have a big team working on this console. Considering Atari's biggest presence is probably the casino world at this point and mobile apps.
Pac-Man. They don't
Pac-Man
they don't know
256 is
Pac-Man
pretty
anymore.
good.
Probably do they? I don't know. Anyway, Jeremy, tell me about Serious Sam versus the evil VSync latency. It looks like who did this? Overclockers Club did some testing with OCAT.
It's one of those Serious Sam episodes not many people played.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a very
this
interesting one.
Just impressed me by the sheer obsessiveness of this review. All you do is scroll down to the bottom where you see the index for the article.
Oh, I thought I was going to scroll past the
all the
expanding
way to the bottom.
advertisement. Okay.
So,
Jesus.
Oh my God. This website.
Yeah.
Eat a dick.
He tested in.
so he did no VSync, and triple buffering in full
geez.
screen, in borderless full screen. He then went and played with the various VSyncs that you do very available through the driver, either NVIDIA or AMD, and just went nuts with OCAT. Just to sort of see what happens when you enable VSync. What are you going to see in the way of frame tearing? What are you going to see in the frame rate? And are you going to see weird little spikes like that?
Yeah.
And what was the
this must have
conclusion?
taken an impressive amount of time.
Is there a conclusion page?
Oh my God. The ads.
There's a lot of ads, though. I can tell you that. much.
Yes,
the
yes,
ads kind
he's
of
got
attack
a lot
you.
of ads.
They like sneak up on you on this
Jesus
website.
criminy.
Yes, they will leap out if you stop scrolling. But the one conclusion is one we already know. Full screen is much better than borderless.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Because, well, obviously. And it was only like the basic VSync stuff that was adding latency. Fast sync, enhanced sync, and frame rate target control all did not give you any sort of a latency hit. So if you're going with one of the optimized driver versions, it works better, as you might expect.
They have ads on top of ads. What is going on?
I'm not sure if I missed this.
It is. It's just popped in on
just
top of the
on top
other.
of the other
It's like,
ad.
no,
I
you will look at this ad, not that ad.
I'm sure it's very interesting content somewhere. Ugh.
Yeah, you just got to read around and don't click on any of the
Any of the green words?
AdWords.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh my
read
lord.
them.
Oh,
God.
oh, you mouse
Oh,
over. Oh,
God.
my lord. You mouse over and
Wow.
it expands.
That is.
You can't get away.
Great.
You cannot get away.
Why would nobody just do? Oh my! And look, it goes to the side and like leave this
God.
nice blank spot for me. I like this. Oh,
Ryan, we need to talk. You need to figure out how to monetize
I bet this is
your
bringing
website
in
better.
tens of
This
dollars
is
a
like
month.
a template.
I think if you read that ebook, it'll tell you how.
What type of remote worker is on your team? Ooh, I like how literally it's the same ad for desktop, data, or computer.
But the data one's moving around.
Yeah.
This is
I
why
see.
people use ad blocker.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Performance?
yes.
The chat says you're
different
probably
ads.
mining Monero at the same time.
Yeah, I
too,
bet you.
so-
Is the fan, is the fan spinning up on
This
that
is a
laptop?
great. This is a great experience.
Don't forget about the house.
Yeah, that one popped in.
you wanna buy a
Software,
house?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. There's a video there. That's an actual content thing. Okay. Ooh,
Yeah, but I bet you if
data.
you hit play, it plays an ad.
Oh my
for-
God.
Look, that one pops up over it.
What is that? You know that sales guy
Oh, I
versus web
clicked it.
dude
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
thing where
I don't
what
want
have
to
you
buy
done?
Office.
the sequel video to the website is down, where the guy keeps clicking on all the ads like continuously through the video. Like that's what's going on right here.
Anyway, Serious Sam or something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
Obsessive benchmarking and
Obsessive-
a lot of ads.
Obsessive ads.
Introducing the EVGA X299 Dark motherboard. It's an X299 motherboard.
It looks dark.
It looks awesome, actually.
does.
It'd go good with those Star Wars Titans.
It would go.
It would.
That's what Sean was saying on Twitter. His
Yeah.
NVIDIA shillness.
Of course.
I'm a little
Yeah,
worried
yes.
when it says dark. Does
It's
that
too bad
mean
the
it doesn't
Titans-
have
The Titans would cover
RGB
up
lighting?
the cool looking fan.
There is not a single RGB light on this board.
What? Refund.
Can I add
Refund.
some?
One of their taglines is "You can't see pretty in the dark."
Wait,
What?
but if there's no lights,
I didn't say
these
it was
dip
good. I'm
switch
just
tags?
saying it's one of their taglines.
no, I think it's great.
What is
Wait,
this?
what is that silk screen? Because that it
That
looks-
is a very
Oh,
handy little skill
It's
screen.
the PCIe.
But wait. Wouldn't that silk screen be sitting underneath the big old fan heatsink thing that's sitting on the motherboard though?
Let's see.
But I don't understand because I don't see that silk screen.
Maybe it's on the back.
No, it comes with it. It's like a little cart.
Okay.
If you
I
click
gotcha.
through, it ships with a bunch of things, and one of that is this, which it's, I mean, handy if you're
Ooh.
not running a Skylake. You kind of need
That
to
is
know
a-
these things.
Does a
I
lot.
like the cutouts of the PCB look cool. Like you got the 24 pin.
On the
my
90
mouse
degree
cursor
angle,
isn't
yeah,
showing
it's
up.
nice.
Yeah.
How big are
USB
those fans above the CPU socket? Are those like 20 millimeter fans?
But they'll
Hey,
keep
Ken, you
your
were gonna say
VRMs.
something.
That's that's the best feature of this motherboard, though. Active VRM cooling on an X299 board, which
That's
has
true.
issues with
Yeah, it
VRM.
actually does
heat.
need it.
It's true.
And active M.2 cooling at the bottom. So it's got pretty much all of the features you'd want to
Highly
run a
efficient.
solid thing.
12-layer PCB.
Without- Sorry?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, looks cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's got every single thing you'd want to run a high-end PC, and none of the little fluff that's becoming ridiculously common on everything.
Cool in the M.2s.
Oh, shit.
And it's EATX.
It says 4-way
you can
SLI
see all the
support,
things.
but that's really only for overclocking at this point.
Well, that's why they showed 4
indicator.
GPUs with LN2
That's
pots
true.
installed.
Yeah.
PCI dim status LEDs, right angle. This motherboard looks awesome.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
How much is it?
It's expensive.
Yes.
How much-
Let's
how
see.
much?
Buy now.
I know.
It is $4.99.
Wow.
Oh, I can only buy one.
Expensive.
Man.
Wow.
You can get it at $44 a month. Come on.
It's not even in stock yet.
Just mine some Bitcoin. It'll pay for itself in no time.
Oh, that's not true.
That's not.
Oh man.
You can mine Bitcoin with a $50
It's still pretty
motherboard.
cool. $500
Yeah.
is money for a motherboard.
It's a little
but
bit heavy.
holy moly.
But how much were those Star Wars Titan,
They were the same price as normal Titans.
the Titans that just got outclassed by the other Titan that just came out?
Yeah, but it's $3,000.
Yeah.
And they don't look like Star Wars things.
That's true.
So, All right, let's move to
EVGA
these.
just needs to subsidize the price of that motherboard by putting more RGB lights on it.
Fair. Let's move through these MSI GP62 7 Rex, which I guess is supposed to be T-Rex, like in
Well, it
lead,
certainly
in
looks
lead
like it.
speak, right? Like lead
So
is
it's the T-Rex Leopard.
okay. The T-Rex Leopard Pro. So Tech Report did this review. It's a fairly low-cost gaming notebook, $1,300. It's got a 4 gig GTX 1050 Ti in it. What processor is in there? Any idea, Jeremy?
The usual one that you see in there, the i7.
Is it the 7 series?
actual quad core?
7700 HQ.
770 HQ.
Okay, all right.
7700 HQ rather.
It's not thin. It's not light. It's not sexy. It's plastic, but it's $1,300. And a 1050 Ti is like probably near a 1050 desktop part, right? Probably somewhere around that.
Yeah, so on a 1080p monitor, it's going to be perfectly fine.
Should be. Yeah. Yeah, we need to look at more of that stuff again in the near term as well too. So MSI continues rocking forward. We're going to see so much of this stuff at CS. I just don't want to spend any more time on it. Let's move on. Jeremy, free games,
Free Star Games.
free star games. What's the asterisk for?
Well, you got to install Uplay to get a bunch of them.
Ugh.
I'm out.
Yeah, you want
Me
Ask
too.
Creed, Black Flag, Watch Dogs, or World in Conflict. You
Whoa. What kind
got
of
to
cream?
install it.
What kind of cream did you say?
Ask Creed.
Oh,
Assassin's
that's Creed. Got it. Are they really
No,
free?
that one you got to install something else.
That's-
But
that's-
apart from that, they're free.
That's okay.
And Good Old Games has given away Oxenfree, which won
As in Ollie
an
Ollie?
immense amount of awards
Yes.
last year. It's a older style point and click adventure, but it looks nice because you got Telltale devs that worked on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And to be fair, with the installing Uplay thing, you would have to install Uplay to play these games. So,
Also true.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
like you have
guess.
to have Uplay installed to play any Ubisoft PC game, even if you buy it on Steam. So,
Fair enough. I'm looking
Or unfair
through
as the
here.
case may be.
indeed.
All right, let's get into our hardware software picks of the week. I'm going to go first. Over here. This is what I'm working on right now. This is a HP Envy X360 notebook. And this is the Ryzen 5 2500U. So this is the Raven Ridge machine. RX Vega 8 is the mobile graphics implementation, 8 gigs. The one I have showing here on Amazon is with a 1 terabyte hard drive. And I think that's the same one they're selling at Best Buy.
You mean 1 terabyte SSD?
What did I say?
Drive?
No, I mean hard drive.
There's an actual hard drive in there?
No, not in this one.
Oh.
But in the one that I have up on that...
On the screen.
You gotta let me finish my sentence. The one that I have up on Amazon here, I think it's the same one that they sell at Best Buy as well. And it comes with a 1 terabyte hard drive. This one has a 1 terabyte SSD in it. I don't know if... So this one shipped to me from AMD, right? So they put the SSD in it, I think. Yes, they did. But HP does sell an SSD-based model, but only on their website. Right, not through like Best Buy.
There's only one left in stock on.
But it's the type of thing you can change.
It is, yeah. You can go in and do it. It's super easy.
Is it SATA?
I think it's a SATA.
So if it was a hard drive,
well,
I don't know.
Pretty thin.
Well, no, if it had a hard drive in it.
Yeah, if it had a hard drive.
Well, that's true.
If it had a terabyte hard drive, then it has to have a 2.5-inch drive.
So I mean, it's a pretty. I mean, it's a
ultra thin one.
It's a thin and light, right? But it's a 15-inch thin and light, so it's big, thin and light. If that translates over. The screen is great. The touchpad is great. Keyboard works fine.
Yeah,
it's got a numpad on it, which has taken some getting used to for me for typing because I'm not centered on the keyboard anymore. When I'm on a laptop, I'm used to being centered, and the touchpad and everything is off centered with it, which is great.
So then your palm is definitely on. Oh wait, no, the touchpad is offset too.
The touchpad's offset too, right? So if you're using the numpad here, you can do that. You know, it's the convertible, so it folds in half without breaking.
Yeah.
And
essential if you have small children.
Right. And it's got a fairly robust integrated graphics, right? I'd say anywhere from 2 to 3 times the performance of like what Kaby Lake has for integrated graphics perf. So I think is this the correct pricing, Ken? Did we see? I thought this was like
$750 at Best Buy.
$750 at Best Buy. Yeah. So don't buy this one on Amazon. $750, and then you can either. We could go to HP and see what the SSD cost, or upgrade it your damn self.
It might also have like an M.2 slot.
Yeah,
you never know.
This doesn't. It only has 3 screws. We need to take this guy apart, I guess.
Yeah,
there's only 3 screws, so it's probably pretty easy.
Or not,
or really difficult. We'll find out. So it's the HP Envy X360. So there are a lot of HP Envy X360s. It's a very common model for them, and I don't know what the sub name of this particular one is because I don't think this has like the normal sticker on it because it's convertible. But look for the AMD Ryzen 5 2500U. I've been pretty impressed with it. Right, we're still doing a lot of testing on it, and battery life and whatnot is still a question mark. But it's almost up to what we've seen some of the Kaby Lake R stuff at for sure. So what do you guys got for us? Jeremy.
Lego.
Yes.
Yeah, good Lego too. The Star Wars First Order Heavy Assault Walker. It's
how many pieces?
35. 1,376.
That's acceptable.
It's up there.
So it'll take you a few. And the lasers on the front shoot, and it's got a rapid fire shooter on the top as well. My
so
Lego
you can
did
lose
not
those
shoot
pieces
when I was a kid.
I just put together the BB-8 the other night.
Mm-hmm. They have round Lego.
And they made it round.
Well, it's like
Tessellation.
it's like anti-aliased.
It's aliased. Yeah. It's aliased round.
It's just over a foot high, so it's not tiny. And hey, it's Christmas
I'm just waiting for my daughter to get a little bit older, where we can start to do some stuff where she wouldn't just be,
and then you're gonna
frustrating to do with, where she would like throw the pieces and lose them.
Yeah, but you're still gonna step on all the pieces, no matter what.
Oh yeah, I mean probably. My wife's really gonna love the dining room table being completely occupied by this stuff.
Has she seen your X-Wing yet?
No, it's I mean, it's not hidden, it's just in the guest room. And she's not really in the guest room ever. But I also wouldn't let her touch it.
That one's glued together though, right?
No, none of them are glued together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's brave.
Alan,
I'm an adult.
You glue your Legos?
Well, if you have a child,
No.
well, it's like a
You're
display.
gluing Legos
Once-
to your
okay,
child?
So it's an excellent.
allowed?
Build it right.
Specifically for display purposes, it's not meant really to be taken apart ever again. My point.
Well, then you keep it out of their reach.
Know what I mean?
Let's do Sebastian next. Sebastian, what
I
do you
have
got?
I have a very low tech pick, but it's kind of gadgety, I guess.
Sure.
It's kind of an inexpensive novelty gift idea for somebody who plays any kind of musical instrument that you can stand up. This thing is a guitar stand, but it folds obviously to a very small size. But even though it's small and portable and folding, it's very, very stable. Like the instrument, the
Show
surface
Sebastian
of the
on
instrument contacts is very soft and kind of sticky. Doesn't mar the finish or anything. It's some sort of inert. I don't know what kind of material it is exactly, but it's not supposed to harm finishes. What's that?
Switch to Sebastian.
Well, I thought you were showing
Oh,
it.
were you trying to show
Oh,
it?
I have it. Yeah. So,
there you go.
so when it's unfolded,
that's bigger
it's
than-
very small.
Yeah, it doesn't
It
look
just-
nearly that big on these pictures.
Yeah.
But it'll hold either an acoustic in the bigger space or like a small body electric in the smaller space. And when it's leaning on this thing, it's very hard to knock the guitar over because it kind of like adheres to it almost. My son has knocked into my guitar a couple times and the stand will wobble a little bit and the guitar stands. So
Lucky for him. Am I right?
yes. I didn't hear what you said.
I said lucky for him.
That the guitar didn't
yeah.
get knocked over.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Emma Lyon's Elena of Avalor guitars really need something that quite that substantial. I think the electric guitars we bought were less than the cost of the stand.
Mhm.
So,
But hey, it's $23.
It's
a
true.
great gift idea.
all right. You're next.
So I want to be able to switch things on and off with an Arduino. And I wanted them to be able to be, relay type switch on and off things. Turns out that they just make these boards that you can even get for a little bit extra money, complete with the Arduino ready to plug in and like ready to go. So you can just switch on and off 16 different relays that you can wire to whatever. Those are like 250 volt, 10 amp rated relays. And you plug that thing in an Ethernet, and you just go to an address on your network, and you can just even get scripty with your TCP requests, and just like tell it to turn on relay whatever with your request without even going to a page in an interface in a GUI or anything like that, right? So you can automate all the things. They make much smaller versions. You don't necessarily need 16 relays. That's like the Mac Daddy one. But like they make one that's just a very simple board with just 2 relays on it, which you could probably fit into something that would almost fit in like a light switch housing. Like if you really wanted to get creative and just have the thing, also control your lights in addition to having the light switch there, perhaps, if you were so bold as to try to do that. Yeah, you can get just the board itself without the Arduino for much cheaper.
It's actually not that much cheaper.
It's like $20.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. You can find them for even cheaper than that on eBay for just the board without the Arduino. I think it's like 15 or 10 or something. But
yeah, but having the Ethernet connection built into an Arduino on that board is the valuable part. Because Arduino Uno is less than $10 easy from China, but the Ethernet connection will cost you a little bit.
Yeah. So that guy wired it up to a bunch of outlets. You can just remotely turn on and off the outlets. I mean, pretty cool. Might be handy for some folks. Yeah.
All right, I want to skip Alex this time. So what do you got?
Well, this actually came up last week in the post show when we were chatting on IRC. It's let's see, what was the name? It was the Konmari method. This lady,
Katamari?
Yeah, Marisa Hondo.
Isn't the game Katamari?
No, not like Katamari. That's a different way of doing things.
like the thing you fish with, the bait.
No.
Calamari.
Fried Katamari.
No.
Calamari?
Yes.
I give up. Just screw you guys.
Catamaran?
We're decluttering right now.
Yes, we're decluttering with all this word vomit. I'll admit it's kind of a foofy book. She's talking about like, oh, your clothing has feelings. No, just clean it up. It's a method of going through and getting rid of stuff.
My method's just a match.
Well,
Bullshit.
No,
You
your
don't
method
throw
is to
anything
put
away
it into
ever.
another box.
But then I just light it all on fire.
To put it into another box,
Makes good kindling.
and then you put
And then glue them
wood on
together.
the ground to put the boxes on top of
yes,
the wood.
yes, exactly.
You are the exact opposite of the Japanese art of any of the stuff. Let me see if is there an antonym book option in Amazon here? What's this one?
no, but they do have an illustrated guide.
Life-changing manga.
Well, of
tidying
course,
up.
it's Japanese, so you gotta have a manga. Of course,
All
I
right.
don't know why they did.
All right,
that.
what's your other item here?
That was actually the repercussions of me buying that book about 2 years ago.
Holy crap!
That is a 30-yard dumpster that we filled up in the first 3 days. We also had 50 large bags of garbage go to Goodwill, and I lost count of truckloads after the 10th truckload going to the dump.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
Excessive.
we had a lot of stuff. Now we don't,
Apparently.
and it's great.
See, my solution is just to live in a tiny apartment.
You just can't fit the
amass a lot
stuff.
of shit.
Yeah.
That's why God invented basements
Well, no,
to store things.
I'm trying to clear my basement out so I can actually use it.
You're not going to use it for anything.
I'm gonna
You
use
just,
it.
I bet if you had your choice now, you would undo all of that work and make it just plain basement for
Just
mining
storage.
computers.
Or just- only in the winter. Only in the winter, so I can
Oh,
heat the
man.
house with the basement.
All right, everybody, that's going to be it for the podcast this week. Thanks for joining us. PCPer.com/podcast. Go there, find the MP3s, videos, show notes, links, all that type of stuff. And we'll be back next week. We have no break, no missed episodes because of the holidays or whatnot this year, so that's a good thing. We'll be back next week, and we'll talk we'll have one more before CES, I think, as well, right? So we'll be able to do any of our, CES predictions of how many cases Sebastian will see and how many motherboards we'll talk about and
There'll be a bunch of TVs.
how many parties I will not attend.
There'll be a bunch of monitors that we're still not going to see this year either. Like all HDR
How
monitors
many
we saw
foldable
last year.
displays are announced but
We
not
saw them.
shown?
We saw them.
Right, that's true.
They're
too,
still
Jim.
not out.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't say they'd ever come out, but we'll see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, everybody, we'll be back. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm not playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I said I'm Ryan Shrout.
Everybody's rebelling.
I'm going to go with Jeremy. He has seniority.
Okay, let's do this again. Bye.
See ya.